You're listening to Misopinionated, real life, real perspective, and unapologetic truth. Here is your host, Divine Priestess.
Okay, you guys, I'm laughing because ain't nothing funny right now. I'm laughing because, all right, so the episode was pre-recorded. I want to put that out there. This episode is pre-recorded now. Okay, let me give y'all some backstory on this episode. There was a lot that was happening during this episode. Number one of this episode, I tend to log on early because I like to make sure my camera's set up, my microphone is set up. I like to make sure that everything is like good before we start recording. Okay. And so I get on early, and Baba Victor, who is a guest on the show, he gets on early as well. And so we're sitting there and we're talking. And the conversation is like really, really good about the tradition. It's about things that happen within the tradition. And so mid sentence, he's like, "Oh, you should be recording this." And I'm like, "Okay." So I boom, press record. Okay. But it's like out of nowhere. It's like, so it's gonna come in with him just like talking. Okay. So this episode, I want y'all to think about it as literally conversational. Of you walk in a room and it's like, what are you guys talking about? Or you walk in a room and like you just sit down and you start listening. That is how this is. That is how this episode is. Because not only that, outside of like it just boom starting the recording and you're hearing guests joining in, okay, there is a point to where number one, my camera started, it wasn't doing what it needed to. So in like the first 8 minutes of the recording, you're gonna hear like this echoing noise. Okay, that's gonna go away quick. When that goes away, and if you're watching this via YouTube or Spotify, then you're gonna see me hop off camera. Okay. Now when I hop back on camera, it wasn't recording anymore. So the conversation that was had was no longer recorded. It should have been. I don't know why it stopped, but it is what it is. So they're talking for an additional like 30 minutes. Okay. And within those 30 minutes, I'm like checking my camera multiple times. I'm like, okay, like I'm checking it. And I'm noticing the pinche like software was not recording. So then I had to hop off and hop back on and try to do some troubleshooting while they're talking to get the recording. So we're just gonna jump straight into another section. And again, the podcast was supposed to, y'all know I don't like it structured really. However, this one, it was like, all right, these are the questions we're going to talk about. And before we always get on camera and start recording, I have everyone meet each other, introduce each other, like have conversation. And I guess there was so much excitement towards this episode that they just went straight into it. So I never got to do like, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Misopinionated. Today we have da, 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 da. It's just like straight talking. However, I will say we did get like some really great stuff. I just want to put that out there that the first 8 minutes, it is like what's happening. Okay, so please bear with me. We're just jumping straight into the
we started getting a good conversation. I'm like, other people need to hear this, you know, because having elders on here tell you how it is and what it needs to be is key, because we're losing, and it's one thing to just not have the knowledge, but it's another thing to put yourself or others in danger.
Yes, and that I had one that insisted on wearing black for every single drumming or every single misa, and it's like, oh, it's like the movies on the TV, and it's like baby, this is not TV.
It's
This
not
is
TV. This is not
this is not
Hollywood.
any of those shows. This
No.
you wear black to a misa, to a drumming, anywhere where energy is shifting back and forth. Black absorbs. You
Black
know,
absorbers, and not only, I'm going to tell you something. Some elders, the old school elders that are still around, won't even allow you.
right, right,
And this is why you don't go without your elder. And the elder
right,
that's taken, you should be like, I'm sorry, like you pulling up. Like if you meet the person, first of all, you should go there and walk in together. You know
right,
what I mean? And then
right.
if I would see someone, I'd be like, what's this? Like, I didn't know I had to tell you this. You can't wear all black.
All
I'm
black,
sorry. You
right.
need, listen, go home, come back later. It's going to be, will be a while here, but you cannot walk in
Yeah,
like that. You're not going to be
yeah,
representing me.
yeah.
You know what I mean? My son, we was in Miami. We just finished up a crowning in Ogun. My son's a Babalao. And we had a lot of Babalaos coming down to assist. And it was an Ogun crowning. And so they got a little Airbnb. And they came dressed. We were going to do some in the Ita. And but he came in shorts. And before I could walk up to him, two people already said something. And he's like, I'm changing, my clothes is in the dryer.
Right,
And I'm like, okay.
right.
Like, we're all like, oh, you know what I mean? No. You can't go in there without shorts. No,
Yeah,
no,
no.
no. And you can't go there all black. You know what I
All
mean?
black, or oh, it's an Elegua drumming, so I'm gonna dress in black and red. You are not Elegua.
Oh,
What
that's
are
funny.
you
That's
doing?
funny.
You know? Oh, you
Yeah.
know the theme is Ogun. I should wear green and black. You are not Ogun. You are not the
Yeah.
culprit. You know.
Yeah. And I know that maybe if someone's wearing like an apron or a hat, but like if you're wearing like a black shirt and green
Right.
pants, I'm like,
Yeah. An apron or hat, that's part of the uniform. You know,
yeah,
but not the black shirt or your black shorts.
pants or your green shirt, like
Or
you try
yeah,
to get.
or your see-through saya with your thong underwear. I've seen all
That's
of that.
fine. Listen, that was
Yeah,
I think that was number 2 on my list.
You
I said the
did
dress
about being
attire.
appropriate. And it
yeah,
was funny because my previous godmother, that was one thing that right out the gates, they like corrected dress code. And we every single time we came around, we all had to wear white. We all had to wear something that was covered up. And it was funny because I've been around other Ilays before. And I've been to some Ilays where they don't care if your tetas is out. They don't care if your butt is out. You know, their whole thing was like, oh, like you should feel free and comfortable, you know, this, that,
Well,
third. So what? Yeah.
you know, to put a point to that, this is what I've traveled a lot. You know that I've traveled a lot to Cuba, and Cuba is a very impoverished place, and a lot of these attires have kind of shifted a little, or has gotten a bit more relaxed, because sometimes people just don't have money for a saya. But if you're in the United States, where you could sheen, you could,
Yeah.
you know, rainbow, and you can Marshalls, and you could Ross. That's a difference.
Listen, there are sales. There's things you can do. You can get. See, that's the problem, is that people don't put priority to the
Exactly.
things that they want. They tell me they can't do this at both for like $80, $100, but they just went and bought some Jordan, or they say they can't get a proper skirt or something like that, but they went out and you know, bought some other stuff. You know, at the end of the day, it's where your priority is. There's no reason that you just choosing to want to look a certain way. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And again, it comes down to the elders. Like when they start realizing that they're being called out in front of everybody, and be like, you know, especially it's responsibility to the person that you're going to. So if someone's hosting a Wido or drumming, it's their house you're disrespecting,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's their family, it's their people, it's their god kids. You're in front of his wife, in front of their sons, and then you walking in like that into their house. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now they're left with the point of having to be uncomfortable and say to you, "I'm sorry,
Right.
who's your madrino? Who's your padrino?
Right.
This is not appropriate here." Because now
Right.
you're making everybody uncomfortable, you're making all the ladies uncomfortable because they can't cover it up, but then you're like this. You know what I mean? It's disrespectful.
It really
And
is.
it is. And it's disrespectful to the Orishas. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Because if you were a Muslim, you would wear your hijaj, you know. So why is it that over here we can't follow the rules? The
That's it.
regla de ocha. Why can't you follow the regla de ocha? You
Yeah.
know. The rules of
Yeah,
the road.
it's attire and clothes is a very important part, and
Really
that was
is.
one of the, I think the top. I've done only like 4 so far. I'm working my way to 10, but the taking pictures and videos was one. Dress attire I think was number 2. Going places without your elders was also one, and then I think the last one I did was Yawo protocols. But like these are the traditions that I'm seeing people slowly because they don't have the elders, and the older elders are kind of like either dying off or just washing their hands
I
of this
wash my
generation.
hands. I wash my hands. That's no. I'm an
Dydra, you
older
were quick.
elder. Yeah.
You
I
was
don't have
quick to
40
say that.
years. I have 25 years. This year will be 26. Before that,
Congratulations.
yeah, before that, I started with other stuff from metaphysics, to Palo, to Santo, Apetebi, all of that. Okay.
Nice.
But I wash my hands. I am not going to argue with grown ass people that have invested money on put it on the table and then decide that these rules are too much for them, or decide that the odun is too intense for them, or they realize that it was on a to-do list, so now they don't know what to do with it, and I'm through. I mean, we as not all godparents, not all godparents, but some of us, I take it serious enough. This religion changed my life, and I see the beauty in it. And no, I'm not a millionaire. I didn't come here to become a millionaire. I had situations, and those situations, malo que bueno, they got resolved. Hello.
Oh
Oh
Lord,
Lord,
hold on.
leave.
Goodness gracious! It's like you have one job, leave.
So when you have somebody coming knocking at your door, there's one thing that you have to know for sure. They don't have the extra money to come in here and pay. They're knocking at your door because you're their last resort. Most people want to stay within society norms, which is love Jesus and mind your business, right? So by the time that they come through our door, they're looking for grand things because they've tried, most of them have tried everywhere else, and now they're here. Those newcomers, the new ones, right?
There's a lot of you know things that come with these newcomers. One, they want a quick fix.
Yes.
They don't understand what it really means to be part of something, so
Yes.
they just think it's a lot of like glitz and glamour,
Yes.
and not understanding that you treat it. A lot of times they don't give this respect.
Okay, I'm back. I hope y'all enjoyed that first part. Now we're about to get into the podcast. Now, this section, it is like an hour and some change long. This podcast would have been like 2 hours and something, but again, technical difficulties. It was just a lot that was happening with this particular episode. So we're going to go straight into the remainder of the podcast. And again, it's just going to jump in at a random moment. However, you're going to hear me talk about like, oh my gosh, the other portion was not being recorded. So that is essentially where this starts, because after I say that, then I'm able to start asking question. Having elders on, it is definitely something, because as you be seeing, I don't get a word in. I don't get a word in when the elders are around. I just sit and listen. Because again, it's so much knowledge. And that's one of the things about this tradition. So I'm actually quite happy that this episode is happening the way it's happening, because this is what it's like in the rooms. This is what it's like when you are around elders, when you are around those, like, those that are older than you in the traditional, like as far as initiation and things like that, because that's ultimately a big part. But when you are in those rooms and an elder is talking and you're in a room with a lot of elders, because I tend to be in a room with a lot of elders at once, and you really don't get a word in, like, at all. And I know that sounds crazy, because some of you guys are probably like, oh well, I'm gonna talk and no one's gonna it's not an ego thing. It's literally because this is how you learn. This tradition is very much oral. So this is how you learn. You learn by sitting at the foot of your elders. You learn by closing your mouth, opening your ears, like they used to tell you in like kindergarten or elementary school. Okay. So typically, and this is why it's always good, at least in my opinion, to show up early to things so the way you can get as much information as possible, because a lot of this stuff is not written down. There's so much and it's not all written down. You have to get it from your elders. Okay, so now let's set the scene. Okay, you are just now walking in the door and the elders have been talking this whole time and you're asking, like, you're gossiping, hey, what are we talking about, and it's like, shh. Okay, so I thank y'all for being patient with me. Oh my goodness, this is so funny to me, at least. Anyways, let's continue on with the rest of this episode.
Countdown.
It is recording. You're not going to talk to somebody that's a kid the same way you would talk to somebody that's 20 years old or somebody that's 50 years old, right? Because the stages of life.
You're going to tell the 8-year-old, yo, you got women problems, man. Your girl's cheating.
You know, and that's the thing that's why, and I will say, and I've heard this a lot from my mayores, and truly talking Odun, you know, whether it's Dilo Uno Ifa, it's very difficult, right? Because the thing is, everything in that Odun does not apply to everybody. Whether you're a male, whether you're a female, whether you're young, old, whether, like you were saying, now in Lukumi's standpoint, you got the testigos, right? You got the 2 testigos that will dictate, and you got the prophecy, and then you got the Orisha that comes behind it. So, like, for example, if it's telling you something about money, but that's where people got into, and like you were saying, this is now obviously on the person that's consulting to be able to explain those things. But like, for example, Shango comes defending on a consulta. It's not that Shango is there radiating you. It's that more than likely the problem is coming from your character or your own self, right? So there's things that you
got
start...
wars.
Yeah,
or you got wars with a child of
those
Shango.
type of things. But then you start taking from the Odun and all these things and bring it all down. And then now you pinpoint. Boom, that's the thing. Because then that's what I mean. For us, I call it, we're universal doctors, because we're trying to pinpoint what areas specifically. Is it love? Is it your family? Is it at work? Is it your internal? Is it whatever? We got to pinpoint a specific one.
All of the above, yeah.
Yeah, and we got to pinpoint all that so we can actually get to the resolution, because that's where the other part comes, that at the end of the day, IFA is of results, right? We want to see the outcome. We do our part, they do their part, right? But that's the thing is, and that I will say, that, again, that falls on the person, and obviously for the person to be able to simulate that, but it's complicated. And like what you used the word early on, you're opening a vortex, literally, of all these energies, and it's just all flowing up.
Yeah. Portals, it's opening portals. You know, it's basically quantum physics of expanding and collapsing all the time. Expanding and collapsing. It's ones and zeros, feminine, masculine, hot, cold, you know. But I do want to say one more time that not everybody, I've seen it in last year, the year before, there was 5 crownings we did. We have 2 ladies that came the same letra in their ita from the italero. Mm-hmm. And their ita had nothing to do with the other one. You know what I mean? One guy talked about all this other stuff. Everything else. That italero speaks a lot of times with his own ache. Also, an italero will speak on, let's say you came, whatever, or D bottom. And in the process of asking if they're osobo, odus come down, and the italero will speak on that. His ache and that orisha, that santo, is going to speak to that person when you need to. Because I've had a lot of people come and they'll sit there. The one that had the one before was like, this came in my sign. You need to start telling the other person, you need to be aware of this, you need to do that. And I said, hold up. I was like, that's not what was told to her. That was Yorita. That's the whole different thing. Don't be speaking if you get privy to someone or you know someone else and the Ile has your sign. Don't start telling them because that's not for you. Right. You know what I mean? What was for you is for you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's amazing. Listen, this religion is amazing. I just want to say, I love it with all my heart.
It's what you make out of it. It can be beautiful. It can be any other color you try to put it, but you know, and that's why I say it's very very individual. Obviously, for a lot of us, we share the love and the faith for it, right? So we can share kind of like the love, the emotion. But behind those closed walls, behind the connection with your Orisha, what you have, all that's all individual. Your godmothers, your godparents, soperas, your Orishas, that's theirs. They work, because
Right.
they've grew with them. That's why I say too, this essentially becomes an extension of yourself. This is all these energies, the receptacles of it, and it's an extension of all the areas of yourself, and they're gonna grow as you grow. You get me? They feed off all these type of things. And that's looking at IFA in a more energetic way. Because like you said, it's a numeral type of thing. It's also, you can take IFA scientifically, mythologically, every type
Yeah.
of way, right? There's going to be an answer. And it's all coming from a baseline, right? So, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Now,
I like
what
what you
led
say.
y'all to Lukumi and Ifa? Also,
What?
I want to say something because I don't know what's been going on. I don't know why. The first portion recorded.
Oh
The
no.
second portion did it, so I guess that information was not meant to be privy for everybody. Because I'm like, why? That's why I had to log off and log back on because I was like, is it not recording?
Oh
So
wow.
It might have been, and it maybe didn't show it was because I know it did the countdown in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. It says
it
it's right now.
did,
It's
and
recording for like 6 minutes. Well, 5:20 something.
yeah,
At the
5:25.
end of
Yeah.
the day, what needs to be shared, two by nature. At my
yeah.
house, two by nature is the favorite line for everything.
Play
But
by inch.
two by nature, but they abuse it. Like if they make a mistake, two by. I said no,
Yeah,
don't blame it on Entry. That's you.
Yeah.
I dropped it. I'm sorry. I dropped your favorite cup. Two by nature. Don't blame it on Entry. That's your head. You weren't careful.
but
But there is two by natures, man. He messes with electronics too.
and I'm sitting here because I was like, that's why I kept staring at the screen because I was like, I kept seeing the record light on yours, and I'm like, I don't see for everyone else's. It was supposed to record, and I was like, well, let me test something out. But we are all here now.
It probably recorded. I'm having faith it did. If it was meant to be heard, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do know, like in your topic questions here, you wanted to talk about like common misconceptions,
Yeah, so there
right?
was a lot of things. Definitely the common misconceptions because I now I guess before we get to that, what led y'all to Ifa and Lukumi? What led y'all to Orisha? Before we get to the common misconceptions, because I'm gonna go to a story of misconceptions I've seen because I knew nothing about Orisha until I started praying to my ancestors, and that's what led me here. So what
Dydra,
led
you
you
want to go
guys?
first?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so in 87, 86, I met an African art dealer, and he had these wonderful pieces. And one of the pieces was this man that was standing with his arms kind of like this. And I noticed that it didn't matter where in the room I was, this statue was looking at me. And so I went home, went to bed, and had this out of body dream. And that's when I met the Orishas. Really weird, but that's how I met them.
You had like an outer body experience.
Yeah. And then from there on, but I had been searching for religion. I had been a Muslim already. I was born Catholic. I looked into to just all kinds of stuff. I chanted for a while, and I was always looking for where is it? Where is it? I had then from there on, I started in '93 doing metaphysics, and that metaphysics opened up my third eye. But what got me here, that I came in running like a runaway slave and sat down, was the drums. And then it turns out that my Oshun is Ibuanya.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
You
So
don't hear that one too much.
yeah, she's not a popular one. And so that's the drums. I was like, okay, I could do this. I could throw a drum party every year. I could definitely do this. And so that's why I said, I'm going to go ahead and crown. I got scratched. And then I knew the day I got scratched, I knew I was going to get crowned because I took it as a yin and yang situation, and that I needed both energies. And here I am, 25 years. Well, it'll be 26 in June. 26 years later, here I am. And I've had my ups and my downs, my good times, my bad times, but I've always had Oshun, Yemaya here with me, and my Egun. I have no complaints. I just don't understand how some people can't take it serious, because in the end, these Orishas are always doing extra to make you know that they're there. And Egun is always doing extra to let you know that he's there.
Yeah.
How about you?
Who,
How'd you end up in?
me?
I know a lot of Babalawas want to be in. They want the most powerful, and a lot of Babalawas think that that Africa has the most power, and that not everybody, but a lot.
Yeah. I myself, well, that's another topic I'll talk about, but because I'm hardcore Lukumi, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
I respect the Nigerian Ifa. I don't like to call it Isheshe because we're all Isheshe. We're all traditional. We all have our own traditions that come from
Right.
somewhere. We have a lineage.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So we're all Lukumi and we're all Isheshe, but I guess I'll go Abuda. I'll go as far as led me to tradition. I'm second generation. My father became a santero. He got into it because he met my madrina, which became his madrina, and he eventually crowned. And he used it to get help, and he helped his life. And he got me and my sister our necklaces and stuff like that. And then eventually my warriors. This is about 40 years ago, probably more, probably about 43 years ago. And then the and then I crowned when I was ready. So I crowned when I was like 20 something. So like I'm going on almost 30 years. I think I'm 29. I should know exactly, but I'm sorry. But I think 29 years. And then Shango, I'm Oni, but that, and then that's it. And then they've always told me had the path 45. Not only did they tell me I had a path way ahead of time, even going into it, I came Ochemeji and Aliguan, Chango, there was like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? Then it's still, I had to like will myself to get it. It was like delayed. I'm like, I'm trying to do this. And eventually I kind of willed it. You know what I mean? I'm like, if you
Yeah.
don't call somebody, I'm going to call somebody. But, and then one thing led to another, and I made E5, so going on 24 years. Years is one thing. Knowledge is also another.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Even like my brother here, Buddha, is very intellectual. It seems very knowledgeable at 3 years. I know a lot of Babalaos, 20, 30,
That
they
don't
got
know
it for
that much.
themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't really do it to learn and to practice. So years is one thing. Knowledge is another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did a video on elders. Like, years is important. You do respect your elders and the crown and stuff like that. Babalaos were a little different. We're all brothers. You know what I mean? Like someone could be 20 years, 2 years, 5 years. Hey, Buddha boy, what you say? You only throw yourself to your luo or your bone. But in Santo, that means something. Someone doesn't know anything, doesn't know nothing, and but they have 15, 20 years Santo and you have only 4, you're throwing yourself to them. It doesn't matter if they don't know anything. You still got to
Right.
throw yourself,
Right.
So there's a respect there, but then there's the respect of those who have the knowledge and take the time to learn and study and be a part and be around the elders and the culture and have learned things. So when they go to the crownings and they're there, they know, they get the respect of those. This person knows how to do this and do that and can be very trustworthy amongst the other elders, and they'll assign people stuff because they have that respect regardless of how many years. You know what I mean? It's how much time that you have put alongside your elders. You know what I mean? And that's the key. You know what I mean? If you're not learning alongside your elders, the book will take you so far. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you get children of Obatala, they usually know a lot. So when they know a lot, then I say, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All right,
unfortunately,
well, no problem.
this is a
I'm,
type of
I'm old
religion that is
fashioned in
hands
that
on.
sense. I know that if I go to Cuba with the 26 years that I have, I go to Cuba, I sit down and I shut up and I listen and I get information. And when they say something to me, I don't say I know. I always say, no, I don't know. Could you teach me? Even if
Osache,
I already
don't say
know
I
how to
know.
do it, huh?
I said in the old Osache, you don't say I know.
You don't say
Because
I know exactly.
They
yeah.
might be telling you the same thing, but with a different interpretation.
Exactly.
So it just
Exactly.
opens your eye. That's why I know Samaya tells you what you know today, you might not know tomorrow. You got to always be
Exactly.
open to learning. But to kind of go into, I guess, Baba, are you done with your part? You want me to go
Yeah,
on?
yeah. I'm not. I don't have a long story, Rex.
As far as mine goes, I like to say that I'm no different than the average person. I don't come from a culture, right? I don't come from a background. I am born in Miami, but it was like the flop side. I was born in the U.S., but I grew up in Colombia. So I didn't come to the States till like 2015.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah, it was not that long. But came out here. I grew up with my grandparents over there. So when I came over here, yeah, Baba, you probably know about the Odo Wale. You know that it's not the easiest, right? There's a refrain in Obewale that I've came to interpret that says the moment of creation has came. But in order to create, you got to cease to exist, right? Obewale is an Odun that puts you through a lot of trials and tribulations, and that's kind of what my life is, right? A lot of trials, a lot of learning hard ways. I've been on my own since around 16 years old, so had to kind of figure it out along the way. And I got to IFA, I mean, by one curiosity. I've always believed in something, but I never believed in the man. That was my problem, right? Um, so for me, when I came to, I didn't directly land with an IFA. I landed first in El Palo. So it was something kind of what I said earlier. Santo Tomas ver para creer. That was me. Because to me, in Obewale again, it's a Odun that people, it's very unconsidered, right? It's from the outside world, so you gotta harden yourself. So that was my problem. I was very hardened and cut off the outside world, so it was just me living like this, and I went through life like that. So when I got to El Palo, when I met something that could give me a guidance that I never had, and outside of that, in unbiased guidance, right? So I went through that. That was probably like 7, 8 years ago. Went through some more struggles and everything till I met my godfather. And I always tell my godfather that amongst the people that have came, because I'm a believer that not everybody is meant to stay in your life, right? People come in your life for different type of reasons, whether it's good, bad. You got to, a lesson that's coming. So my godfather was for me at the time. I can tell you again, I didn't know about. I probably had heard about the term Santeria from Colombia and everything, but no culture, nothing coming from it. So I did Mano Orula, and I crowned, and then I did what they call de un cuarto pa otro. I did my 7 days in crowning, and I crowned Chango with Oya, and then from there I went to El Cuarto Ifa. Um, I can't tell you when I went into it. I mean, there was no conception, no what is the outcome, what is going to happen. I was just, this was my lifeline. I was just one, and I was just holding on to dear life because I needed it at the time, right? It was just something. So I, I've always been something, like I said, for me, people have doubted me, but I never doubted myself. And I always believe one way or another, I'm going to figure it out. I got it. So when this presented, it was, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but hey, for whatever reason it is. So I've always been somebody that trusted my instinct no matter what, good or bad outcome, and I went for it. Like I said, my first year was very difficult. I can't tell you that I understood IFA. Like I said, I didn't come to understand IFA until this last year. About the whole, because it was never even to consult people, to even, it was just, I was just looking for a solution for me. Who was Sebastian? I needed a fix for Sebastian, right? I needed help from that. So Ifa brought me that. Ifa made me come to a lot of realization and more trials and tribulations. But like I told you, Ifa brought in the scope and made me understand and made me change a perspective. And 2023, I made an internal decision, and life has just, it's been peaceful. And that's ultimately what Ifa brings you outside of the materialistic nice things. And now I just open up my botanica, so like it's something that now Ifa, I feel like, has drawn me in such a way that I've learned to, like I said, to me Ifa, my Orishas are my family. It's an extension of myself. It's something that is mine, you get me? And it's something that I honor. Like I tell people, whether you believe in the spiritual, because there's some anti-spirit, spiritism balaos, or some people that don't. For me, no. I go into
You
my, I
said
have in my
spiritism,
backyard
Lolo.
a good altar for my eguns. I'll go out there sometimes. I'll talk with them. I'll drink a coffee. All these type of
Hombre,
things
hombre, Wale
because
de Teja.
I Cheporu, my Ferefunegun every day. And that's what to me, this is them. This is, so for me, it's as I grow, they grow with me. I want to add on there, some people have the conceptions with the soperas, right? Oh, you don't got to have them in such nice. You don't. Because you have a chango and a hikara versus, castle, it ain't going to make a difference. But to me, is the meaning of a true friendship. And when you care about something, you take care of them. So to me, as I
And you
grow,
honor
they grow with
and
me.
you honor them. Yeah.
Acheboru. Yeah, no. So to me, is that they've been through. I can tell you when I got because I went, like they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I did that. I went all in, and when I did all my stuff, so when I got to all my santos and everything, they were in hikaras for a good while, until as I've been kind of staging in life, kind of growing and growing. I've been growing. Like I said, they grow with me every single day. But
Ache.
that's kind of my story.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, my story.
Hey, you got some drama
Let's
with
hear
yours.
yours.
I definitely got some drama. Oh my gosh. So, but we're just gonna go to 2017. We're just gonna skip all the other years and just jump to 2017 when it all started. So, because I grew up in a church house, I grew up Southern Baptist, and even as a kid, first off, they told me to stop asking questions in church. Because the questions I was asking was about like God and the creation, and ain't no 6-year-old should be asking those type of questions. So they told me to stop asking questions, and I was like, okay. So, but I moved around a lot. So moved from Texas to California, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna go be a Catholic because like I'm not getting, my spirit is not feeling fulfilled with being a Southern Baptist. I feel like there's something missing. So I tried to go the Catholic way, and I'm like, my spirit is still not being fed, like something is missing. And so in 2017, out of nowhere, I would just wake up from the hours of like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning every day for like a week. And I'm like, okay, obviously, and I just had this notion of like, okay, spirit, like God is trying to talk to me because why am I waking up at these hours? So I would wake up and I just set my altar facing like the east. And now I'm like learning like there's a specific reason for that. And I would every morning I would light my candle, and I would just, something told me put out a glass of water. So I would put out a glass of water, and I'd be like, God, please guide me where I need to be. I'll go back to sleep because I'm like, I did my prayers. Like that's what I did. That's probably what they woke me up for, to go pray. So I'm doing this every single day. I would light a candle, I would light an incense, and I would make sure there was water in the glass. And so, one day I sat there and I'm having this notion to like pray to my ancestors, and it just felt weird because I'm like, I didn't grow up like that. It was no such thing as praying to your ancestors. You only pray to God, and that's it. And so I prayed to my ancestors, and I felt weird. I was like, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, but I wasn't taught that this was right. So every day I would like do it. I was like, okay, well, pray for my ancestors that you guys guide me. And so one day I'm sitting there, and I'm asking again, I'm like, God, guide me where I'm supposed to be doing, like where I'm supposed to be in life. And I hear like the name Santeria. And I can't recall ever hearing that because also my family's not around that. And so I go to my friends and I'm like, yeah. I was like, have you guys ever heard of Santeria? And it was like, yeah, no, that's evil. That's evil worship. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I listened to this guy talk about it and how he did like a year in white as a kid. And like, they do all these things. It doesn't sound evil to me. And so I end up leaving it alone. I'm still praying, guide me where I need to be. So I want to say later that year, I end up going to an Oshun priestess, and I asked her for divination. And I was like, yeah, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Like, can you like give me some insight? And at that point too, I was like, can you tell me who I'm a child of? Of course, like everyone always wants to know. And so she was like, oh, you need to, because I was figuring out if I want to go voodoo or go to, go the IFA route. And she's like, oh, IFA. And I'm like, okay. But I had more connections with voodoo. So I was like, I'm going to focus on voodoo and whatnot. And I still kept coming around being placed in Orisha spaces. And so, again, I'm still praying. And I end up having a dream of a legua one night. And so I'm like, and I didn't know it was a legua at this time because I didn't really, once I heard Santeria, I just kind of like left her alone. But I had this dream, and I remember I walked into a botanica, and on the right side, when I walked in the door, it was like a big old clay plate, and it was a rock on it. And that rock had a lot of money. And I'm seeing all these plants. I'm seeing this man standing behind like the counter with like a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't remember what that man said to me, but I remember walking out and I looked at, now I know it was a legua. And I was like, okay. So I went to Google and I was like, rocks that are red and black. And sure enough, and the legua popped up. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Left it alone. And like what scared me one day because I was on my way to sleep and I used to cover my ears because I would always hear voices when I'm getting ready to go to sleep. So I'll cover my ears. And I heard this like scream and I saw this shadow in the hallway and it scared me and I took my ass to church. I was like, I'm going to church. I'm not messing with that. I was like, I don't know what that was. So I go to church.
It's evil.
Right?
I was all like, I don't know what the hell this is. I said, oh, hell no. I took me out to church that Sunday. I was like, let's go to church. And so we go to church. And I'm like, and again, I'm not even scared of voodoo. I'm still going to go the voodoo route. And so I keep coming around these spaces. And every time, and it's funny because it was always an Oshun priest. And he'd be like, and there was one time he got mounted. And he was like, you're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be with Orisha. Orisha comes first. So I'm like, okay, like, I'm going to go the voodoo route. And so I ended up finding an Ile in Houston. And I was like, all right, let me go see what it's about. I go there. And the lady, she wasn't too fond of me. She really wanted me to leave. And I definitely left because I feel like being there, things kept like breaking. Or things kept dropping, like a coconut rolled off the counter, it busts wide open. Then something else dropped, and then something else dropped. I'm over there like falling asleep on the couch, she talking. It felt like someone was hitting me in the head. And the woman was like, asking about her background. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, my great grandmother was a bruja, this and the third. And so she was like, oh, well, why don't you go practice brujeria? Because this isn't for you. And I'm like, I'm not the only one that talked about brujeria up in here. Why are you saying that only to me? So they continued doing like a little thing. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and leave. I'm just going to go ahead and go. But thank you for your hospitality. And of course, I didn't really mean that because she was rude as hell to me. So I left. And again, I'm coming around these different spaces. And every time I will always go to like drummings and stuff like that. I was still going to get readings. I would get Miranda Lagoon readings every so often. And every single one was like, you need to find an Ile. And I'm like, okay, like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Another one, you need to receive a local. You need to do this. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. And I'm not even like fully dipping my foot into the Orisha pot yet. I'm still like, I'm going to go voodoo. Like, I'm just getting these divinations to know what spirit has to tell me. So it finally got to a point to where it was another priest and he really upset me because I got a reading and he was like, you need to receive a local, you need to find an Ile, you need to do this or that. And I was like, okay. But his godchild told me what he said off the phone. And so me being me, I'm like, I'm going to show you. So the thing was basically him saying, Yemaya saying like she wants Orisha to chase her. And she needs to, do essentially what we told her to do. And I'm like, I'm not asking the Orisha to chase me. So I go find my first Ile and I join it. And when I reached out to her, I was like, hey, I need a crown. I already know I've been told I was supposed to be a priestess. Like, I need a crown. And she's like, well, that's not how it essentially works. You have to get a reading, this and the third. I'm like, okay, I already know the Orisha told me that he's a crown. Get a crown. So So sure enough, I go up there to meet them because it was supposed to be like a little meet and greet thing. So I fly to Baltimore to go meet everybody. And I end up joining the ELA officially. I want to say that was in March. Let's see. I probably joined officially in like April or May. After that, I'm like, all right, how much is initiation? And like my godmother, no, I always be like, just tell me the price. I'm gonna go make the money. Just give me the numbers, and we're gonna make it happen. So same thing. I'm like, just tell me how much I need. I'm gonna make it happen. And it was funny because she said it before of like, be mindful of how you go into priesthood because that's essentially how it's gonna be. I'm not really paying attention to that, right? I didn't really understand it. Now I do. So I did work 3 months, but I end up getting the money, part of the money in some scamish ways. And the other 3 months, I worked like to the bone. I worked like 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Sometimes I would push to 7 because I'm like, I really need to get this money to go ahead and initiate. Well, we know how that story is because the way I got the money to go into initiation is essentially what happened to me in return. So throughout these years, almost 10 years, I have learned. In fact, the way you try to go into initiation is how your priesthood is gonna be. I learned the lesson of patience. I've learned the lesson of listening to spirit, and when the Orisha tell you to do something, they tell you once and twice and three times. By the third time, fourth time, they're not telling you again. It is like, all right, go do your thing, little one. You know it all, grasshopper.
And learn. They'll tell you, but they're not going to tell you in divination no more. They're going to tell you with certain results that will be happening to you.
No, they'll play the game on you. They'll play the game on you. You go ask, and they're gonna tell you yes. Like you go to console, you ask IFA because this happened to me. I've been stubborn sometimes, and I've played the game and I've learned. Orunmila, are you fit? And I already know it. And it's like, should I just let me ask, see what the guy says? Boom, yes, do it. And I'm like, Orunmila. And sometimes when it's told me no, Orunmila, are you fit that if I give Elegua something that I cannot do? Yeah, go for it. And then I go and I learn my lesson.
Because if they already said no,
it reminds me of the Pataki where in the Iretusuka where Obatala wanted to know if he can travel to the next town. And Iretusuka came, but they were young Babalaos. And they said, Baba, if you're going to be met with, you can be in prison or you can go things wrong for you. And he thought this was crazy because the Orishas would go and they would always be adored and honored and revered. He wanted to know how his road was going to go. So he didn't like it. So he went to some older Babalaos. He goes, ask Arula, I need to know if we can consult, if I can go to this trip. And then Arula's like, oh, you second guessing? We've already told you. You ain't trusted. So Arula said, go. So Obatala went and traveled. In the area that he traveled in, there was a curfew imposed. Anybody out at night, at sundown, they would be in prison. So he don't know. And he's walking around. It's at night. It's dark. They don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't recognize him. He's like, where's everybody at? Click, hit him over the head, put him in the prison, and he's sitting in jail. He's like, ain't this some? And it wasn't until the next day they said, oh my God, oh my God, Baba, I'm sorry. He went to the first Babalaos. He goes, I should never have doubted IFA, and before he bale.
Right.
La palabra IFA nunca cae al piso.
Yeah, IFA words does not fall to the ground.
Never.
Yes, I definitely say, and I will say, throughout this whole process with me coming into the tradition, even though, that was a very hard lesson, it was a very expensive lesson. They got my attention with that. I don't play by my money. And so, but I sit here and I was all like, because I told my madrina of like, when it was kind of like brought to my attention of like, hey, your initiation, it may not, be valid, things like that. It like crushed my spirit so much. And I sat there and I've had my moments of like, And I would still go to the ocean. I would, talk, and I would talk to, the icons that I had of like, um, I don't want to walk away, but it's like a part of me, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Like it was too much. Like, why would I go through this thing? But then I sat there and I was like, even though I went through what I went through, I have instances where there's things that are very unexplainable. And I'm like, it was because of the Orisha. So I was like, it's not that they don't exist. This was just something that I had to learn. So me walking away, it it's like I opened that door. I could never go back to not seeing what's behind it. So, I
That's the thing.
definitely
You
feel like
can
it
you can
strengthened
you
my
can
faith.
choose, like, once you have those glasses on, I mean, you can 100% choose to take them off, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, what you're saying is 100% right. That, again, when you come into these things, unfortunately, we all think it at a point in time it's all gonna be sweet. But that's the thing, right? Sometimes we gotta go through those situations to really, like, and again, this is between you and your OD and your destiny, right? Where you gotta get to. Sometimes your faith gotta get tested a little bit to see if it's really meant to be. Because, like I said, it's not for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, right? Whether you get to where you got to, it's that's between you. You're it's that's your own OD. It's not even what IFA or Orisha gotta get to. So again, sometimes we're so deviated, or we try to rush the process, and unfortunately, it's even if you want to, and El Olu probably know. And I mean, with certain things, you can get to the highest thing where they say to IFA. You're at the door, right there, it says no, you're not going in the whole room. You got to tear everything down, and that's it. Because the thing is, it's not what we want. Sometimes we're trying to swim against the current, right? We want to rush again, and unfortunately it's becoming something a little bit more normal, obviously, because all these things that people want to receive or rush to get it for the title, for all that stuff, and not knowing the outcome of it, right? It's you got to learn to crawl before you walk, and you got to learn to walk before you run, right? You got to go through certain cycles, so that way, because that's the thing, it's not less true that if you some initiations, again, they're not meant for everybody. So if you try to go against the current instead of it being beneficial, it's going to be contradicting, right? It's going to actually take away from
That's
it because
true.
it was never
Yeah.
meant to be, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes, so sometimes it's that, like, you're trying to go, and your Odisha tell you, no, not right now,
And
like,
that
and you're
comes
like, nah, I
Sometimes,
into,
want to go.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what you
No,
just
no, go ahead.
say?
I'm so sorry.
Oh, go. No, I was just gonna say what you said, Devon. The only way they're gonna catch your attention again is where it hurts the most. We all know where it hurts the most.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Nah, this girl ain't learning. Guess what? We're gonna make her go through something, so you learn the hard way. Yank you where you gotta be. Because sometimes, in order for evolution to be, you gotta lose. Sometimes, right? You gotta go through the pain. Because if not, again, you're not gonna go to that next stage in life or get to where you need to be. Because if it's all fine and dandy, again, if it's like if you were in a bubble, right? If because sometimes, let's say when you were raising kids, right? And that's why I said for a kid when they're getting ita, it's more of a guide, right? You can't have
Mm-hmm.
somebody in a bubble, because eventually they're gonna spread their wings and they're gonna hit and face life, right? So that's what happens. Is sometimes we want to face life with just, we have never met people that betray us. We've never met people that can have different intentions. Us. We don't understand that people don't always want to see us better than them. There's a lot of other emotions that people don't share the same way you think, the same way you feel, the same way you act. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, balance. Osala for Beyo, there's the Odum, where it talks about Abita and it talks about Olofin. And Elegua was a person is the Patakin, right? It talked about where Elegua would always see at the table there was only one other person beside Olofin that would sit at the other side, and that was Abita. Elegua being Elegua would be like, why is he sitting there? Nobody else. Not Obatala, nobody. It was just Olofin and Abita. It was like, who's this guy? Nobody would ever say until, Elegua being tactics, he did some stuff to get Egun to attack Abita. Abita transformed, and then he went to the table and confronted Olofin about it. Olofin told him, in order for there to be good, there has to be
it has to be
balance. There
yeah.
has to be bad, so there's a balance. And then from there on out, todo iba hecho. That's why Legua is always also interpreted with the balance, right? The both
Yeah.
sides. But
Mm.
that's what we got to understand, that, again, sometimes things gotta happen, unfortunately, because we decided it to be that way. That's a hard. That's the hard. If simple, the why is the difficult part because
At the end of the
we
day,
alter that why.
I want to come back to the earlier topic, of like why people get to certain levels and they crown or they can't, or they're having a problem, or they ended up things going left, or they don't go into the room, or things go left when they try to crown, or even after they crown, they throw Orishas away, or they have a problems and all this other stuff that they end up not doing right. They don't respect. Okay, this all comes down to one of the things that I think, Divine, that you wanted to talk about was, spiritual responsibility, and that comes with, on both sides. You can't blame the other person who's ignorant, who sees the glitz and the glamour, wants to come into these things for the wrong reasons, or is not ready. But the spiritual responsibility, and I think is a real problem in this tradition, is on the other side. The responsibility is more laying on the elder. The responsibility is a little bit more on, in the burden is a little bit more on the elder, because a lot of times they come and throw money, and you take the money and want to initiate them. A lot of times you want titles, you want more God kids under your name. You want to say you have another Santero, Santera, and a lot of times you want to give them guerreros, another, that's my hada, and I want to do this. And a lot of times the spiritual responsibility is telling somebody you're not ready. You know what I mean? And if that has to happen because of the integrity, you know what I mean? There are some things that we've had to hold off on someone that's looking to crown, but it's like, well, you got a lot of stuff going on there. There's some things that we're just not cool with. We have to uphold the integrity of our house. Let's pause. You know what I mean? That happens. You know what I mean? And there's some other things that we're going to be like, people have come to me all the time and was like, yo, I know his mentality. He's asking me, he's going all over the place. I know him like his third Babalao, and he was doing a lot of witchcraft to this person and telling me, I know that when I know how you work, you don't do no bad to nobody. He's like, well, if I make you fight, would I be able to do stuff? Will you allow me? And this and this. And I'm just looking to himself, I'm not making you fight you. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't make you fight a guy. He ended up going off and doing his own thing. And to me, tell you the story how bad character this guy was. He was taking his warriors and doing all. He had warriors. He had 3 sets of leguas from 3 different babalaos. He had all this other stuff, and throwing bad at his. He got me into it with some other, because he left and went to some other babalao, and then that guy was upset at me and all this other stuff. This guy ended up getting his warriors through all his orishas. His father ended up I found out from his ex that his father threw out all his stuff. Everything he received, threw it in the garbage. Now his thing was when he came back to me, oh, can you make me another one of this and this and that? And I just kept, okay, but he's like, well, that was not my dad. My father was going to pay for that, for what he did. I'm like, that happened to you. Those Orishas left your ass. They just, you got everything. You just bad character. Now, I already knew off top, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna do anything to you. You're not gonna. It's spiritual responsibility. You can't do something for money. You can't. If someone comes to me, I want to do an amare. I want to do an amare on this lady. You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, I'm not gonna do any love work, anything else. We're gonna get a reading and see if I can help. Maybe you need a limpia. Maybe you need to remove some bad off of you too. But I'm not gonna do that. How do I know that you didn't beat your woman and she finally got the courage to leave? And I'm going to do an amount on her to bring her back? No. Oh, the lady comes to me, I want you to do a love spells. I want this guy, we're together, but he doesn't want to come with me. Can you do something to help me get him? I'm like, listen, I don't know if the guy's happily married, and you trying to talk to him and want to pull him away because you listen, the integrity. You can't do things for money. You have to sit there and look at the situation and what's right. And if sometimes you have to turn that away, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do your initiation. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this at both. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this work for you. And at the end of the day, we're getting tested.
Okay.
Yeah,
no. And I think that's the part, Lou, where unfortunately, right, with the balance of all, there's people that do let themselves be the greed of the money. And I get it. We live in the world, and I'm not a type of person that I'm against people charging what they got to charge, because unfortunately, this is something that is 100% a career, right? If you make this a living, you can charge what you want to charge when you're doing the things good. Or you were talking about the amarres too. Even if, like, what I tell people in the concept of that, if somebody doesn't want to be with you, they don't want to be with you, but you're gonna force them to be with you. Like, you already
A
know
lot
they
of
don't want to.
times what
So
they'll
to
do is
me,
they'll bring up, well,
that's
he
some people
doesn't
is
know it
like,
yet, or she doesn't know it yet.
yeah, but
You don't
that's
know
where,
it.
to me, it's like, this isn't that, and that's where people have the misconception. And so I feel like a lot of people also use the Odun Obetumaco. And Ifa did if Orunmila did Ifa to the thieves and all these type of people. The thing is, again, we're all humans. Nobody's perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. We all have done our things, stolen a little candy, whatever it is, right? We are all deemed of a second opportunity, but not a third, not a fourth, not a fifth, not a sixth. There's a different thing, again, knowing and not knowing. And now when you come to IFA, like you're saying, you don't come with the same antics. You don't come with the same type of thing. And, because when I see people, when I've seen the magic of IFA, is the change that IFA has had on the individual. When you can see the person that came from XYZ and the toughest type of thing, and you see them today and they're shining, they're bright. It's like, damn, man, that's beautiful, right? But not, it's the people that try to use Ifa like we're repping a flag. It's some gang, like something like, to me, I don't share the thought of Ifa's papillos and you got to do, no, because it's not for everybody. The same thing with the initiations, that people want to give people powers and all these things, catch all the Pokemons, but they don't even know how to work with it. So you're going to receive something so tough. Like, for example, you give out a no sign to a person that can't even have it or has it, instead of benefiting the person that you get me? So that's the thing that people, and again, unfortunately, that lies with the priest, the person that's
It
giving those
starts there.
things, and it starts
Yeah.
there because a lot of people aren't. Yeah. So, but that's the
It,
thing is, it's the money greed, right? And that's where I feel like, again, you can charge your thing, and that's where I tell people, if one thing that I have learned in my short time in IFA is that IFA will never let you starve or die at any point in time. Whether it's here or there, you're gonna pick at it, especially if you walk within the righteous way. Because the thing is, people will say, okay, can you technically do an amarre, brujeria, whatever you want to do? 100%. In technicality, you can do whatever you want. But now, do the Orishas have the moral compass, or should you have that moral compass? Should you be able to dictate that this person is coming to you, and Odunivifa tells you that this person is XYZ, and I get it. Ifa teaches you to have an open mindset, not judge anybody. But if you already know that this person is going to, do something that's not supposed to, they're going to be ruining or doing stuff like that, then that's where your own ori, your own interpretation to these things is where you have the decision. And if Ifa's not going to
right.
smite you because you decided
At the
not
end
to
of the
do to
day,
somebody that
that's why I
wasn't
say
supposed to.
it's our
That's the
responsibility.
thing.
And Okana Trupon says those who rush to get powers without knowing how to use it and the responsibility how to use it can cause more harm than good. And that's why they said that's the old word is be careful when you're wanting money, be careful when you're wanting greedy, wanting initiations, and wanting power without knowing how to use it. It requires responsibility so you to know what you are getting to and also what you are giving. At the end of the day, we look at divine here. She had some bad experiences and some situations, some her own decisions and some bad elders and everything else. But look where she's at now. Look how she's educated. Look how she's holding herself up to her elder, her madrina. That shows the transformation of what a good elder can do. And I think Divine wouldn't really appreciate Dydra and her madrina if it was not for those past experiences. But she's upholding the religion, integral, faithful, doing these things, getting elders, and that's a testament to her madrina. You know, you know what I mean? So I do gotta probably get out. I got some people that were driving in from Minnesota. They told me they're gonna be here at 6 o'clock Central Time, my time. I do probably gonna have to log off pretty soon, about 10 minutes. Is there anything we wanted to talk about real quick or get my input on anything before I gotta go?
Yes, well, I guess the importance of guidance, because with everything being on social media right now, and everyone,
TikTok elders.
You got some people say you don't need an elder. Yeah.
Oh
Some people say
yeah,
you don't.
there's a one out there on TikTok saying that you don't even need to go to Orula for
So
your guardian
I do want to
angel.
talk about one
Oh
thing.
yeah.
So
You
a
heard-
lot of times the misconceptions, that was a topic that I think that was hope to talk about. And one of the things I want to talk about is that um, the misconception is that Arula and
Mm-hmm.
Ifa and Santeria are two separate religions. They're just names of the religion. Ifa can be, when we say Ifa, we're speaking of the religion because it's the word of Orunmila, and through the Odus, we learn all our ceremonies and everything else. It's just a name, but it could be called Santeria. We don't have an official name like Catholicism or Islam. You can call it Regla de
Mm-hmm.
Ocha, you can call it Santeria, you can call it Ifa, you can call it Lukumi, you can call it, I'm an Orisha Ishe, you can call it different type of things, but at the end of the day, Ifa and Santeria are not two separate things. A lot of times people make them separate and act, and and there are Ocha centric houses and Ifa centric houses. That's just the choice of those Iles, but there's no two types of religion. There's one religion, and each Orisha has their own roles. And I don't agree with where people feel like they can do guardian angel readings through in Oriate and Italero. Um, it's Arula's role.
Yeah.
Things got changed. You know what I mean? They used to be on their own lineages, and you used to just crown it under your family lineages, but things changed. And that's when Arula Damane put the change in. It said, okay, everyone has an Ori. Everybody has a different a guardian Orisha. Orunmila is impartial. Orunmila was a Lerimpin. So let's do this. And he gave him that authority. Most won't even argue with the Odu Saroso that says that. Most won't even argue that fact, but still won't do it because of certain circumstances like, well, my elders never did it this way, been doing it this way all these years, that's fine. And blah, 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 and this and that. Or they try to make Ifa a different part. Orunmila is like any Orisha who is an Orisha and part of that. And the Bible allows participation within everything should be included. Participating, you know what I mean? There's a crowning process. The Babalawo doesn't crown. The Babalawo is not the Oba, that ceremony. But the Babalawo should be incorporated. Like, find out the Garden Orisha. Do the Ebo Entrada. You know what I'm saying? Present the knife. Present the scissors. Do the
Yeah.
matanzas. Do those things. But the Oba is doing all, stuff without thinking. Does everything and singing and everything else and works hand in hand. We'll do the Ita. We'll do everything. But there's reasons why a Babalawo is incorporated. There's reasons behind health reasons why, spiritual reasons why a Babalawo should do the matanzas. We read Aguna Kete. There's reasons why Arula should be the one. It's to do the garneration. So the religion is not separate. Babalawos are not a separate religion. Ifa is not a separate religion. Arula is not a whole different cult. We are all in the Lukumi working with all the different Orishas now. This is no longer where there was a Legwako, Batala Yemeka. This is Lukumi. We've banded together to make a religion that we follow, and that incorporates Arula. If you choose not to use Arula, it's not because you have a different centric or different type of lineage. No, you're just choosing not to. That's it. That's my 2 cents. People, I do gotta go.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Dydra. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
My brother Iboru, Ogbe Wale.
It was beautiful to hear your interpretation. Always good to hear from elders. I always like picking at it. I always tell my padrino, for me, I'm not a center type of person in like where I close minded. I love learning. Like I said, to me, fire is just a day-to-day thing. We learn, we change. From 5 years from now, I'm gonna have a different perspective. But that's the goal of it, right? Because if we're not changing, we're not challenging, we're not questioning any of this, and
if you're not growing, you're going backwards because everything is movement. We know the law of change and the law of movement. So you have to adapt and change. And that's what the religion did. It adapted. It can't do it the same way it was before. It had to adapt. So this is why we have the adaptations. It's a beautiful thing. Orishas are going to continue to thrive and survive. You know what I mean?
That's what I tell people. Imagine where it's 100 years from now and cars are flying. Yeah. What then?
And there's going to be Patakis. They're going to talk about the cars flying. They're going to say, I invento. That's okay. Well, someone had to talk about it.
Yeah. Is going to change.
Yeah.
The book of Ifa is going to change too because of the internet.
Yeah.
Because of the internet, The IFA has now spread to the world. So now the world has access to IFA.
Everybody's
You know,
gonna have a pick at it, and that's why what you were
yeah,
saying earlier with the guidance, I think for one, and one of the main things to not stretch it too far, people got to realize, especially in this type of XTR, there's a type, there's a side of fiction and there's a side of reality, right? You can have the faith, you can have those type of things, but these type of things, we can't forget that the initiations, those type of things are necessary. The same thing what you mentioned, Baba, earlier on with the books. The book you can learn and study out it, but it's not going to tell you how to, put el pico ahí, how to do all the things. All those, these type of things come tradition. There's magic in tradition. So we can't go too far off, and that's the thing I say now. Social media has now opened the realms. So all these iles, all these traditions are now trying to mix. But at the end of the day, you got to find your ile, you got to find your people, because you're going to learn from the hand of your elders by scrubbing that floor, by cleaning up that floor, by being there, stuff like that. Because you don't learn that stuff in the books. You can learn, you can read there, like for example, El Canto de Paegu, Aumba wa Ori. Where's the tonality of it? How are you
Boy,
gonna learn
I
that?
used to hate
Aumba for
that.
your
I'd
elder.
read
You
all those
hear your
songs
elder
and
doing the
prayers. I
Aumba,
don't know how to sing
and the
it.
same thing with. But it's all those, and those are the basic. Now, what is the order of the matanza? What's the order of the ceremony? How do you do this? La tirada el coco, all those type of things that is
yeah,
in action. So it's like a
yeah,
weight. It's book knowledge, and I think that's the people now. Social media has become all the wise people. Book knowledge, that is great, but if you don't have the actual action to it, I mean, you're
When
just
you
a book.
start learning,
Anybody can
I'm
read.
not to cut you. When you start
and
learning, oh, go ahead, DJ. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
it's like he was saying earlier. The experience gives you a different perspective
True.
on each odum.
I
Ache
So,
can't.
Boru.
I can't.
the years
And
of
I'm gonna tell
life
you something.
gives
Ache
you
Boru.
In my
gives you a
time, I had
different
a little
perspective.
experience, more than you, in the sense of where I've read my sign, and I've had the 20, almost 24 years of the sign, and how things that didn't make sense, or things that didn't manifested later. I'll read this. I have the same book. First of all, look at these books. There's all like missing pages. They're so old from the studying. You know what I mean?
Right,
But I had the same. Okay, make a long story short. I had the same book, and I've read the same thing for the last 20 years. And I read it like 2 months ago. I'm like, damn, this is hidden different. It's in here. You know what I mean? Sometimes we'll apply it to you, especially when
yeah,
it comes to life science. That's also the thing about understanding divination when you're getting a reading with this time. It's different from a yearly reading. It's different from like a transitory this time. It's different from your itas. It's different about who's giving you the reading. The ita that comes from
right,
Obatala is very different than ita that will come from
right,
Eligua. They mean things. It's knowledge. But again, you don't know. Like you're learning things that you didn't even know you
right.
didn't know. I'm gonna have to hit.
And that's the thing. And as you learn, where I found, and this is where now sometimes I blow my head, even, while I'm right now in the early stages, that it's like I call my padrino sometimes, and I ask this and this, and he's like, "People, está lejos." He's like, "You're," because I tell him, to me, I love questioning, and especially if I can expand on it. But um, there's things on there that it translate. What you read in one odu, you read a different one, and you're like, "Perate, I've heard this somewhere." And then you make the connection over here, and then one node you take it to the other one, and like you were saying, with even your old node, by the time, obviously, Baba, with the years you have, you have a conception, maybe not the full picture, but you have an understanding of it, so you can now pinpoint here, 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 and then you start
Ogbe,
taking little things that now is expanding.
listen,
So that's why, to me, Ifa is
Ogbe Wale is
infinite.
gonna
You
mean something
can
different to
take
you
it
in
where
another
you want to
5 years
take
and
it.
another 10 years. It's gonna start hitting. I always say this
Right.
about Ifa. Ifa can be learned in one day, but never mastered in any lifetimes. You know what I'm
In
saying?
any right in
Because
any
at the end of the
lifetime.
day, you
Ashe.
don't know what you don't know.
Boru.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Gotta go.
Yeah.
All right,
Bye.
Baba, have a
Thank you for
blessed
coming
day.
on here. Yeah, so, but how do you guys feel with, how do you feel that movies and social media is misrepresenting this tradition? Because I I never really paid attention to like what goes on with the movies, because growing up, my great grandma would be like, "You don't need to watch the TV to know what's going on." So I never like be watching the screen. I'll just like hear it. And I didn't realize in the American Gangster there was a scene where they're going to get divination from a santera or a santero. They're getting divination done about doing business, and the santero's like, "No, don't do business because this and third." So the guy's like, "I'm not going to do business." Then there's another movie, another show is a remake. She got to have it, and they go to Puerto Rico, and the guy, his sister, is a Santera, so she's doing a Morin de Lagoon reading for him, and it's like, okay, it's not showing like bad things, but also it's more than just divination and wearing all white. So, how do you guys feel
Well,
that social media stuff? Yeah.
usually when you see those scenes on TV, even if they're not doing anything bad, if you notice the decor in the back of the room, like it's always dark or it has some sort of
Yeah.
red or it has some sort of black. So even if they're not doing anything bad in the perspective of somebody that's spiritual, the connotation is always a negative one. That's why I
Yeah.
opened up the nonprofit. My nonprofit is about being able to take that view of our religion and disperse it. Let people see
They got the
something.
spooky, the dim
Yeah,
inside.
it's very Hollywood. But
Yeah.
as you go and you start, thinking, because like I kept saying to the Oluo, there's a lot of philosophy here. For you to be able to understand Oduns, is you have to philosophize.
Yeah.
You have to think. You have to use your gray matter, right? And I notice a lot of things. I notice that in the countries where they practice ATR, there is poverty.
Yeah.
The Christian community or any other community, the financial community does not support them. That's why Cuba is going through what they're going through. Venezuela, which is
Yeah.
high in this, is going through what they're going through.
Brazil.
That's why I'm in Brazil. My godmother lived in Brazil. She's a legua and a santera and a palera, and so that she was going to be working craft in Brazil, and she used to be embarrassed because she said the Brazilian people would call her from the bus, "Macumbera, macumbe," and just publicly humiliate you because of
Mm.
what you're doing. So, and they're trying to get out of that poverty. So, and Africa, right? Africa that has all the minerals, all the diamonds, all the everything, because they practice this, they don't give them that much. They'll give people in Egypt, or they'll give people in other
Mm-hmm.
parts of Africa, but West Africa, where this comes from, Benin,
Yeah.
where this comes from, those people have to do on their own, because these over here, they're not gonna help them. So I don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
I also think that, and I don't know, I'm going off far fetched, but I'm gonna say it. I feel like the people in government, in all these different governments, are practitioners and
Oh
are
yeah.
believers, and they get readings, and they say, oh no, it's just an astrological reading. But if you're doing astrology, you're already moving energy. So they're doing readings and they're doing spells. And if you go to um, the stock market, you'll see how they have the golden bull, close to the stock market. They have the big old, I forget the name of the obulus, that they have the
Mm.
little statue that has the little top, the pyramid up there, all these
Okay.
different types of energy that they're
Yeah.
moving, and they do craft on the people. Why the people can't get up? They do craft on the people. So I feel like it's all about, let these people think that what the blacks are doing, it's
Mm-hmm.
bad, and then
Yeah.
what we're doing is bad, but it's unattainable, because the way Hollywood portrays that kind of magic is almost like move your nose and something pops in and pops out.
Yeah. It's
So
cutesy.
ours is bad and theirs is aesthetically pleasing and good.
Yeah.
So I don't appreciate it. I really don't. I think it's a bad thing
It is. I mean,
they're sticking to our color and to our culture and
yeah, I
denying
think
it.
it's that unfortunately, those type of things I feel like obviously lie within the people. Like I said, even for me, it was even difficult coming out to like most family because again, especially in Hispanic type of culture, oh, that's brujeria, oh, that's santeria, oh, that's the devil,
Yeah.
you know. But that's where I tell people, and I've told them again, like kind of what we were talking about earlier on. It's either you're in or you're out, and unfortunately, there comes
Yeah.
a point in time that we all have to understand that we're not in the slave area anymore. We don't have to hide it. We can express, and it's 100% right to believe in what we want to believe. If you're Muslim, it's if you're, in Brazil they believe in the sun. In some parts, in India they believe in the cow. Whatever you want to believe, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to, and that's the problem is those misconceptions come because unfortunately social media, all those things, that's what attracts people, the mysticism, the unknown, the fear, because for most people not knowing is fear, especially for these type of things. It's you're like swimming in unknown waters for the most part. You don't even know. They just tell you you're doing a lot of things, you're moving things, you're making things happen. So for most people that's not normal, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is when people, now I feel like as some people have the conception that sometimes, and yes, unfortunately, like what you were saying, Divine, where sometimes a lot more things are shown than it should be. Again, times are changing. What I think is, you know, you shouldn't pay too much attention to the outside world because if not, it's going to deviate you from your path. And again, a lot of people, I like, for example, if I see something on social media, whatever, that it might be intriguing to me, I'll double check it with my godparents or my elders, be like, hey, what you guys think about this? Oh, I've never seen this. What is this? Because I'm curious, and it's okay to want to learn. You get me? But it's there's certain things that if it's just wrong, or some people take it to a point where now they deviate their character or their own things to now try to, it takes two to tango. That's what I tell people. So
Yeah.
social media, unfortunately, it's people want numbers, people want the marketing, people want it, and that's how they reel things in. But IFA saves itself. IFA doesn't need anybody saving it because again, this is a very individualistic type of thing. There's always going to be this type of thing. Now social media is more known, but even back then, it was still trouble, and even more. I feel like now the good side is that our type of religion is becoming more vocalized. It's becoming more known. People are starting to see, you know, removing the bad side. There's still good side to it, right? It's becoming a lot more known all around. So I think it's I think instead of it, right, if you want to pay attention to the bad, sure, but outside of it, I think it's a way that people again need to start understanding now that it's okay. We don't gotta hide it
Yeah.
anymore. We don't. We can vocalize. We can believe in what we believe, and we can make it that, like you said, we don't have to use the mysticism, the dark, and stuff like that. Like it's on the contrary, it's a beautiful type of feeling. It's a like I have, for example, every time my congos and stuff like that, and some people might look at it as like, you're doing too much. But for me, this is like the beauty of it, right? Your flowers, it's a
Yeah.
good energy. It's not like, oh, the spooky wooky. Like I'm gonna no, it's not that. Again, but to me, it's the conceptual. When people want to treat things as a bad way, they will. You want to treat it good, you will. Like for example, in El Palo Mayombe, right? They talk about the prenda. They talk about that's a slave that you have there. Sure, if you want to think about it like that, if that's how you want to treat it, hey, to each their own. To me, it's not like that. That's my friend. That's a person I take care of. That's something an energy I feed. I take care of. I respect it. We all got to understand we are not above none of these things. We're humans and nobody's above none of this. So we have to learn to respect it. We all learn to respect it our own way, our own character, our own emotions, adapt to it. But we can't deviate from it. We can't say that there's beauty of it. We can't remove
Yeah.
the beauty of this type of religion. We can't remove the faith. We can't remove that because there is a
Yeah.
beautiful essence to this entire religion you know
Most definitely. Now, how the next question is, how does this tradition influence your everyday life? Because one thing that I would always hear when it came to, more specifically, I would hear it in regards to voodoo, because that's where I got my start at. Of this is a lifestyle. It's not something that you just come do whenever you want. Like you practice this every single day because you're tending to spirits. You're doing all these prayers, and you should try to spend as much time with them as possible, especially if you're asking them for things. So how does this tradition influence everyday life?
David, do you want to go first?
Sure, I go first. Well, there's not that much difference when it comes to spirituality, or maybe because I've been doing it for a little bit that I don't see the difference. But my daily, when it comes to this religion, is before I go out the door, I always have a little chat with Elegua because he sits by the door. I always look at him to get approval. That's something that I started doing here. But when it came to the spirit, Egun, that's somebody that I've always been talking to. First, as a little girl, it was supposed to be my imaginary friend. And as I moved on in life, it just became, oh, I'm talking to myself, but I'm really not talking to myself. Egun has always been there. And I think that the realization of this religion is the fact that you start looking, like when you get in and you start listening about your spirits, about how they've been there, and then you start thinking, oh, dang, that time that I almost drowned in the river, it must have been Egun that got me out. Uh, or, or that time when I was just, walking in the streets at 3 o'clock in the morning and my Aleki broke out of nowhere. That must have been, the Aleki Chango broke, must have been Chango stopping somebody from robbing me. And so then you start looking and realizing how Orisha and Egun is constantly affecting you throughout your day. So that's how it's influenced me. It's influenced me in the fact that now there's not any major decision that I'm going to make without discussing with Egun or talking to one of my Orishas to see which step, which way to go. And then to get the map, because I feel like this is a map of your life when you crown, to get the map and to get the cheat sheet, right? That's also made my life work in a different way, trying to see how I can better my character to get the better outcome of any situation that I'm in. That's how it's influenced me.
Yeah.
I would say for me, in a funny way, it makes you put on the goggles. And what I mean by that, again, we were talking about earlier that Ifa brings you a way of viewing and seeing things that are there, right? But what I mean by that is, it might talk to you, or you might start seeing the people that you can sense, or you can see the people that before they even betray you, you can see the fakeness in the world. You can see all these energies, and that's what Ifa brings to you. Outside of all of these things or the initiations, all that, it's what it basically does, right? It makes you woke.
Yeah.
People try to call it
Oh
nowadays.
yeah, that's what
Um,
woke is. That's
but
what
that's
woke
the
is
thing
all
is
about.
that, yeah, you come to understand that Ifa truly is outside of the mystical side. You can take Ifa, again, I've said it many times, wherever you want to, scientifically, right? When we talk about certain type of things, I know Bawalaos that are doctors, and
Oh
and
yeah,
they'll talk to Ifa in a medical way. Whether you want to talk to it scientifically, medically, whatever you want to, it's there, right? Ifa, for example, we talk about Oru, and that's where it takes for certain people to understand if they want to, because not every knowledge is for everybody, right? But it takes a certain level of understanding, and then that's where magically, right? Because understanding is where sometimes things just click, and you're like, wait a second, and there's just somehow life just gets better. But that's what it is. You came to realization. You started seeing the patterns. You started seeing things. You started changing. That's what Ifa is going to bring you, is the clarity you need to have to be able to get to where you need to. You get me? So that's why,
Yeah.
to me, Ifa, again, I always use the quotation marks on the religion part, because, like I said earlier, it's a very individualistic type of
it's a
thing.
way of life.
It's a way of life. It really is. Even if people want to say that's corny or whatever, it is a way of life, but not anybody's life, your life. Where is Ifa
Yeah,
going to take you? You get me? Where is
that
it going to teach you? All those type of things. That's between you and Ifa and your Odi. That's all it is.
yeah. That's why
Yeah.
here you can belong to any religion.
Ache
because
Boru.
this is
Yeah.
not a religion. Because it's
IFA's for
just the way it is.
everybody.
Yeah.
IFA
And
doesn't
you're
look
and
at
you're
race, color, anything.
yeah, yeah. And your odung is you are the catalyst of the odung.
Yeah.
A
Ache
lot of
Boru.
people don't a lot of people don't realize that it's your odung, so you are the catalyst. You is your odung, your energy. So this is what you're manifesting to society.
You manifest
Regardless,
your own reality.
yeah, and then that's why a lot of people they come here and they're like, "No, it's not me. It
Yeah.
can't be me. It's happening to me." No, but you're the cause. You
Yeah.
because it's your energy, your odum. So there's something that you're doing that this is the outcome that you keep getting. So it's not that you're the victim. You're the cause of it.
Yeah.
Ache Boru.
Like my sign. If I get up and I walk away from everybody and tell everybody to go leave me alone, that's in my sign. And so
Yeah.
Ache
what
Boru.
did I do to make people go away? Yeah, I told them off and told them to
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Yeah.
So then I can't turn
So,
around and say, "Yeah, they all leave me, but it's not because of me." No, you did it.
yeah. So our last question, because this actually could be like a very long time. And now you know what? I may have to put something in place because this is a really
Yeah,
good episode. But the last
I
one
think so too.
is, what role do ancestors play? Because when I came into going into voodoo, but also coming here, my mind was never on the ancestors. My mind was on the Loa, or it was on the Orisha. It was never on the ancestors because I'm like, oh, my ancestors. Like, I go do that over there. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I got into this tradition of I realized like your ancestors play a very important role because also what I was taught earlier, like into my walk, was that it's there's a order that goes to play. Your ancestors, it's, I guess some people say it's your Ori, then your ancestors. Some people say it's your ancestors, then your Ori, then the Orisha. But however, if your ancestors do not approve of certain things, they're gonna block it. And I'm like, but it's the Orisha, and it was like they don't trump your ancestors. So
But I'll put it to you in the most simplest way, Devon. Without your ancestors, you would not be here.
true.
So ancestors, aside from everything, they are essentially our spiritual foundation behind us, right? They are the pure existence and the proof that we are here, right? All your bloodline, your ancestors, all those people, the sacrifices, right, for you to get to this realm. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
So in many traditions, right, especially ours, we don't view our spirits or our ancestors they're gone, right? They always remain spiritually connected to the family, right? And they can influence, they can guide, they can warn you, they can protect, or even connect, right? Which some people have that sixth sense or that ability to be able to develop that and have the connection to it. But in the simplest term, our ancestors are the beginning of everything, right? Because, like they said, really, without the Orisha, without the Egun, there wouldn't be an Orisha, right? Because it's all the proof. That's all it is. It's the proof. So in order before anything, that's why in Lukumi, right, we always start with our ancestors because before anything, it's them, right? Because you can go to a santo, you can try to go to your Ori, right? You can try to go high, but then you stand right there and they say no. Go back. Start with me.
Yeah.
Because again, we can't forget about that. That before anything, Orisha is beautiful. Orisha are huge, but like kind of like the Olu was saying earlier and what we were talking about earlier, everything, same thing as Babalaos, Olorichas, Paleros, everybody has a role. Orisha has a role. Egun has a role. Our spirituality has a role. Everything has a role, and we cannot obscure or try to demonize because now it's the high almighty realm. No, because without that there wouldn't be this. You got me? Without that we wouldn't even be here, because then if we're here, what came before us? We all came from our mother and father coming together to give birth to us. Their mother and father gave birth to them, and that's the transcending thing. Those are our bloodlines. So we can never
Yeah.
negate, or we can never try to go over that. And that's why I always say, a un viejo amigo nunca se olvida. outside of anything, we all have a spirituality. We all have our spiritual cordon. We all have our ancestors, our eguns. And to me, outside of me being a Babalao, and I, like I said, I love my Orishas, I love Changwa, I love everything. But there's something for me that my egun, my Ferefun egun, every single day of my life. Because they're there. It's not that Orisha isn't there. You get me? It's not that they're not there, but egun, good or bad, they're gonna always be there right next to you. If they gotta, whatever it is, they always walk with you from the point you were born, to now to the day you die. You get me? And
Yeah.
then from there, it's obviously a later conversation, but that's all within the realms of Oru and all these type of things that it kind of expands on it. But again, simplest form, Egun, it's the proof. It's the proof of mere existence.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The ancestors are very important, but the ancestors are always going to be there, like you said, specifically because they're your lineage. They're the ones that are constantly putting judgment on you because they're looking at everything that you're doing. Um, and every single one, every single spirituality has its own work, right? We're
Yeah.
all working towards ascension, right? We're all working towards ascension. Even the ancestors are working towards ascension.
Hmm.
So it's not that one is going to trump the other. No, it's just that each one of them has a position and a
Hmm.
job to do for you. So you might have one egun or that is probably an ancestor, but it's a 400-year-old ancestor, like you do your DNA and it's like, oh, you have 10% of this.
Yeah.
That one be the one that was the one from the El Arabi, right? The Arab
Hmm.
one that brings
Yeah.
money, and that's all he does. He's not doing anything else. Then you have your protector one that all he does is do those wars for you. Oh, you're about to have a car accident. He's going to make sure that you don't wreck the car or that you don't lose your job, your life throughout this particular situation. So it's not that one trumps the other. It's just that each one of them has a position and each one of them has a particular job. Some of them are only here to do, like you're walking down the street and then this random person looks at you and says this thing, and that phrase that they said changed your whole life. That could have been one ancestor that's all he had to do was make sure that you heard,
Mm.
because it was going to make a very big impact on your life. You see what I'm saying? So now what's the confusion? Maybe the hierarchy. you
Hmm.
know some have a higher position. That's why I always go to the pyramid, the spiritual pyramid. The top of the pyramid is God, the ones underneath God, or some people would say angel, archangels, and then saints. Some people will say Olofi, Olorun, Olodumare on the top, the Orishas below that, Egun below that, the ancestors below that, or maybe is the lost spirits, the dark ones that don't want to go nowhere, that we can pick up and throw at somebody else, because those are spirits too, and they're just lost, trying to find a way to go to ascension, or the ones that were so dark within your own spiritual quadrant that all they're going to be doing is trying to see how they can get you to now help other people so they can start getting light, so they can start working on their vibration to raise it. So yeah, no one trumps the other. Everybody has their job. Even like he said, even your own spirituality, your own spirituality is here paying off karma. You
Yeah.
know, working on a mission, because we all come here for a mission. Maybe your mission is just to come in and be aborted, and that's all you were supposed to do. You're supposed to stay an angel, but you had one more thing to do. What was that one thing? Is to come in and get aborted, and then with that abortion, now you stay in the kingdom of heaven. You see what I'm saying? So we all have our purpose, and we're all learning from one another. That's why I love IFA, and that's why I love them 256 Oduns, because the more you understand it, the more you understand that this is the name of your spirituality. So you're walking into the room with this spirituality, with this energy. And that's why when you crown, you have all these other Orishas, and you might be the daughter of Oshun, but today you walked in with Yemaya. And
Yeah.
everybody looks at you and you're like, oh, you must be the daughter of Yemaya. Well, hell no. It's just that this morning I woke up and she decided that she was going to hang with me. You
Yeah.
know, the other day somebody might look at you and they just can't figure out who you are. And that's because Obatala is walking with you. That day, he ain't your daddy. He is nowhere, but he's somewhere in one Odun that he played a part. And today he decided that he's going to hang with you and play that part. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's why you should respect other people, because it's like we have one that is St. Lazarus, and people talk about her, and I said, don't talk about that St. Lazarus girl. That girl might walk into the Ile with St. Lazarus all over her. You're talking smack about her, and then go home and get sick and don't know why. But you thought you was offending her, or you thought you was talking shit about her, and in the end, you was talking to St. Lazarus, El Mero Mero, the one. And then he got upset with you and he threw something right back at you. Why would you try to get a daughter of Oshun and take away her man? You don't know if Oshun gonna leave you manless because of that one man that you took away from the daughter of Oshun. You don't know.
No, you-
Oshun might no, you really don't know. Oshun might have been like, this I want you to be with El. And El's like, I really want to be with you. And then like they were saying earlier, then she's like, well, I want you to do craft to tie El to me and have El break her up. And then Oshun said, well, that was my El. I wanted my daughter to be with El, and now look what you did. So now I'm gonna mess you up. And then 25 years go by, and you're like, damn. I haven't had nobody in 25 years, and that was on Shun. Boom.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're crowned or if you're not crowned. Those things should be respected, because in that way we stay where we're supposed to be, and we do what we're supposed to be doing. But it's when we start messing around with energy. And no, don't think that it's just this religion. We've had this talk. People that pray, they
Yeah.
go to Jesus and they pray for somebody to die, and then they say that Jesus did it. No, Jesus didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Some demon heard your plea and decided to answer that plea.
Yeah.
So no, not you're not exempt because you're somewhere else. That's why we like it over here. Us
Yeah.
like it over here because we know that karma over here comes back real fast, real fast. We see karma fast, and we have to be responsible for our own actions as well. We can't be
That's the
like,
key
oh
thing. But
yeah,
we like to throw the rock.
yeah,
We like to throw the rock, but we don't like what the
right.
outcome of it, So
Yeah.
that's the thing. But kind of what you were saying, something there that I think, that's why I say that IFA is simple, but the why is complicated, because unfortunately, again, in between the balance, sometimes you know how they talk about generational curses.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that is a true thing. Sometimes we don't come to heal ourselves. We come to solve the problems of our ancestors, of our mother, of our father, of all that stuff. Um, Whether you decide to be the one to cut it off or better it or worsen it or follow the traditions, again, there are things that are generational curses, stuff like that. So we all have, again, like I was saying earlier, everybody in life has a role, good or bad, whether people come in for your life for a specific reason. But I'm obviously, now I have a different concept of, the only thing that I know in life that's guaranteed is that equal. Outside of that, nobody has control of nothing else. But that's the thing, is everybody has a purpose. We don't know our purpose, and finding that purpose sometimes is difficult. And what I tell people, unfortunately, sometimes finding that purpose, it means ibae. You get me? So there's things that within this life spectrum, there it's infinite, right? And in the Yoruba concept, right, we don't look at death as death, right? Because on an energetical
Mm-hmm.
type of level, right, what is created never cease to exist, right? They have
Hmm.
that scientifically proven. So it's like a matter
Yeah,
of
energy cannot be destroyed,
reincarnation, all this type of stuff, whether
and
people
we are
want to believe
energy.
in it or not, it's a true thing. And even in the Ifa religion, right, we talk about Oru, right? We know that there's 9 realms of Odun, right? The reason why we mark the 9 lines for Egun, right? The 9 realms of Odun. Essentially, for us, there isn't the concept of heaven or hell. there are realms within those spectrums that we get assigned. Oya, from my knowledge, she is the one that assigns your position, right? Oya has a lot to do with the transcending or the level where you fall under. But there are spaces where people get to depending on what they are, right? So the different stages is like for the people again that come and are essentially like broken vessels, right? Which, if I'm not mistaken, is Orunapadi, right? Then there's the Orumburuku, which is like for the people again that come in and are a little more dishonest, chaotic, where it's like correction type of thing, right? Which is Orumburuku. The Orunafefe, which is the space which is more for a balance, right? Not good, not bad, but has a mixture of it, right? Where it's kind of leading up to a possible reincarnation, whatever that may mean, right? Then there's the Oruna Solu, which is essentially kind of what they utilize the words of the divine, right? For those that kind of separate from the pure from the impure, right? Then there's the ones for it's like Orun Rere, which is kind of like a peaceful one, right? For those that kind of dealt with fostering health, harmony, kindness, right? If you reach that type of stage, then the Orun Funfun, which is essentially like the spiritually pure, right, for the people. So it can be priests, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be, right? This is just the concept of Yoruba, of the different stages. The people that, whether you're somebody, whatever, that you got to a point where you emitted or you inspired other type of people for enlightenment, right? Whether you're, giving an advice or whatever, some people reach that stage. And then there's the Oruna Lafia, which is for the people that reach a certain stage of like deep peace in their life. They come to, and that's what I mean earlier, where Ifa brings you a certain type of understanding, a perspective, not perfect, right? It just makes you understand. So when you reach a certain type of level of understanding, you become at peace with it. Because, again, outside of Iku, everything's up for mumbo jumbo. We connect it here, we move it here, blah blah. We'll figure it out. That's what this is. And then it goes into Orumbaba, or the Iya and La, which is reserved essentially for the protectors, the ones that serve the humanity, right? Selflessly. And then there's essentially the last stage, which is the Orunmare, which is where Olofin, right? Those souls, those perfect souls like Olodumare, the supreme creator, kind of reach that stage, right? But that's the concept of, depending on where we are in life, what we do in life, how we act, is essentially where we're gonna live. Again, that the term reincarnation is very vague, and it means a lot of things for different people. Some people believe in it, some people don't. But one thing I ask people: who knows what's after life? Nobody. You can have theories, but nobody knows what's happening. So sometimes is that we got to focus during this life, better all the things, and know that no matter what, you believe in karma or not, it exists. What goes around
Yeah.
come around. That's
Yeah.
a life rule. So if you put out, right, if you do bad all in life, don't expect later on for life not to treat you bad, or to do bad things happen, or if that soul of yours, because people have that misconception. No, or in Spanish we have a saying, el que reza y peca empata. The person that how do you say,
Praise
the person that prays and then does something bad, they
and
think that,
sins. The
yeah,
person that prays and then sins
yeah, the person that
and
prays and sins think that that's it. They wash their hands off it. I went to go
Mm,
rob somebody and then I got home. Oh, thank you God for saving me for a good day, and that
right.
saved me from the
yeah.
bad.
How did I say you for a good
No,
Yeah,
day?
no,
that's not
that's
how anything works.
85% of the population in the United States. I feel like that's
Yeah.
how they treat life.
Yeah.
They sin and then they pray, and they're like, because a lot of people think that, well, that's why he died, so I could sin.
Yeah. It's like, that ain't why you died. And to piggyback off that, before we close out, it was funny because I had that thought earlier. Um, what came to me? It was that I can't even remember, but I definitely know I've seen that in like gangster movies of right before they about to kill somebody or after they kill somebody, they go sit in the Catholic church and they sit there and they pray and ask for forgiveness and they repent. And I'm like, now you done just killed that man because he owed you some money and he told you he ain't have it. He'll get it, and you done took that man life. He got a whole family. But oh, that's what I was gonna say. Uh I remember I made a joke, and people be getting so butthurt when I make jokes. Oh my god! So years ago, I made a little joke about and I told you the story about how I was gonna venerate my white ancestors, and how everything in my house started to like things started falling off the walls. Like it really felt like they was upstairs tussling. So I had to go, take their little altar space down. And it was funny because my previous godmother, she made that point. She was like, a lot of people feel that when a person dies, that they're still, that if they were a bad person on earth, that they just miraculously turn into a good person because now they're in the ancestor realm.
I
It's
don't
like,
believe that.
yeah, and it was like if they were a bad person here on earth, they are a bad person in the spirit. They can try to atone for that, but a lot of times they don't see the issue with that. So if they were a murderer physically, in the spirit realm, they still think they did right, and that's who they are. They don't always atone for that. So it was
Yeah,
a whole
that's the
thing of
thing.
like,
And here's the thing too, that this more on the spiritism side, right? That when there is somebody, right? Again, we were talking about when energy is created, it doesn't cease to exist. So there are
mm-hmm,
people, unfortunately, that do not complete their cycle for whatever reason,
mm-hmm,
X, Y, Z. There are, right, in the spiritismo side, right, we talk about the spirits that need light, right? There's sometimes that we have, spirits or eguns, not, and that's the thing, and if I were within our culture, it teaches you that we don't look at eguns or the dead as scary things. We come to an understanding that sometimes some of these spirits, because that's the thing, you can be walking down the street, it doesn't have to be anybody from your ancestors. You picked up somebody that was around there that decided to latch on to you for whatever reason, whether it wants to stick with you or whether because it was just limbering, and then now you got to do a misa to figure out if you got to elevate that spirit, if you got to do
Yeah.
XYZ, if it want to walk with you, if it served a purpose, whatever
Did
it
you
is.
pick it
You
up
get
on
me?
the subway?
Ache Boru. So that's
No,
it's
it can happen.
it
They
happens.
see
No,
your
you
light
can.
and they're like, I'm going home with this
Ache
one.
Boru.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's. I mean, that's it, and it
Yeah.
happens. But that's the thing. We don't gotta look at it at a bad thing because imagine there is how I view, right? This is just my interpretation. If there is a spirit that latches on to you and decides to stick with you, because again, there are spirits that have nothing to do with you, and they've protected you more than your own, and they've been there, they've been protected, and they stuck with you. I got one, and she don't
I
got
got
nothing
one
to do with
too.
me that I picked up, and she's there, and it's like, But that's where you got to come to the understanding that again, all of these spirits, sometimes they do have to be elevated. Now think about it like this: when we're feeding or we're venerating something, when we're talking about the syncretism of Saint Jude, all these type of religions, something became so divine, so elevated that people started believing and things manifest out of it. You got me? So people decided to believe in Saint Jude, all these group of people that they now fed into this energy, they gave their energy to, is that they elevated that soul to such a point that I was talking about Orumaru with Olodumare and stuff like that. People reach a certain type of elevation, right, that now it manifests as something like that. That's where all of these religions, God, it has different names, right? The
Well,
Muslims and all
in
these
the
things.
Catholic Church, for you to become a saint, you have to have a stigmata.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through stigmata for them to even elevate. Like Mother Teresa, they made her a saint, but I think she bled from her eyes or something like that. So she went through
Mm.
different stages of
That's
stigmata.
it. So
Yeah.
look, hear this, right? Where we talk about, okay, there's the mysticism and then the reality. So we talked
Mhm.
about the 9 stages of Odu, and then people might think about it. Well, that sounds all mystic and fine and dandy. All right, where's the connection? So we talk about on a physical level, we have 7 stages of death. It's called the mortis stages, right? The part where your skin starts losing its color, the body cools down, then the muscles start stiffening, and then the discoloration, then the body starts to decay, and then the decomposition, and then the final stage, which is the skeletal system, right? Where it just the skeletonization of the body.
Right.
Then from there, where's the spiritual part? Because in our religions, most people from the funeral, the deathbed, right? Where the soul essentially begins to depart, right? El velorio, the wake, right? The prayers, the rituals, people start saying they're honoring the spirit, right? And then you walk over to the cemetery, right? The path to the cemetery. That's another stage right there. And then guess what's right there at the path of the cemetery? The cemetery gate, right? That's the threshold where they say that the life and afterlife, right? Which there is
Mm-hmm.
where Oya stands right there on the transcend. And then there's that path to the grave, right? Where everybody's carrying everybody now there. It's everybody's crying, everybody's letting emotion. It's walking now to your final resting spot,
That's
right?
yeah. That's where Saint Lazarus takes you to your
Ache
final.
Boru, and then there's the actual burial, right? Where the body, because we all
Dadayewa.
come to this earth, but we all gotta leave this earth. Where?
Mm-hmm.
In the earth itself. We all
On the
leave
earth
the
itself.
by the earth. So from there, that's another stage, and then there's the funeral rites, and then there's this spelling burdens, which they call that. And then what's the final stage? The path to Oro. From there on out is where they say where they elevate the soul that hopefully it goes to heaven. That's a stage, whether you want to call it in Christian terms, Catholic terms, whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a
It's
realm.
all lo mismo,
So
lo
Yeah.
it's
mismo. It's
where
all the
that
same thing.
lands in between all of those. But that's what I'm saying. It starts from the mortis to then the 9 stages of that, and then it goes to the 9 stages of Orun, which is on those. So that's why, like I said, in Ifa, there's the mystic, but then there's the baseline where all of this can, and that's why to me, Ifa caught my attention because I can listen to the mysticism and it's beautiful. But then it gets to a point where we have to also understand that people question. And if I question you, where's the logic? Because we got to understand we all come from different backgrounds. And it got Ifa adapts to the person, how you're explaining it. And there's the connection between it, the 799. And then you look at all this stuff and it's like, well, in Egun, every time there's the 9 lines, the 9 realms. We take it to the spiritual, right there. And then we take it to the actual mortis stages, it's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that is going back to that previous question that has influenced me a lot in this religion is the way I view death. Before being here, it was so detrimental, crying, the pain, the grieving process is completely different here than what it is in any other religion, because we have a general understanding that energy cannot be destroyed. The spirit is energy. Therefore, I know that mom's still here or dad's still here. I know that they're helping me. But in any other religion, that's just not how it goes. It's either heaven, earth, or purgatory, or
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah, for us,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Is
Over
like where
here,
you do something bad and you gotta repent and you're smited
yeah,
at this.
yeah, it's very different over here. Very different.
Yeah.
The hardest
Over
thing
here
for
is I
me,
think it's like the conception that we're human. We make
right,
mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Not the
right.
priestess with 50 years. Not the nobody's perfect. We all have our times, whatever. But this is just understanding certain things. And to me, the only thing, and I'm not gonna classify one specific religion. There's just the ones that I don't agree with is the hypocrisy. That
Right.
oh, if you don't abide by this same rule and you're a human, you're automatically doomed. You're this is that. It's like
Oh
why?
yeah,
Like it's like damn. Like I just
that's
made one
control. That's
mistake.
manipulation. That's not
Yeah, no,
religion
no,
anymore.
no.
That's manipulation. No, but the hardest thing for a santero to do is to have to take their mother's spirit or father's spirit to the shingle.
Mhm.
Okay,
Like when
bro.
I had to do that, it was like, oh my God,
Yeah, y
because
tuto.
this is
Okay, bro.
because this is a realization of this person is actually not here anymore. They're not going to be here anymore. And from now on, when you do that breakfast dinner at the tuto, that you put that plate out there and all that other stuff that you do, and then you have to take it to the shingle to sing to Egun, that's just devastating.
Yeah. Yep.
It's devastating. It's just, but then that's it. That's on the ninth day after you've elevated the spirit, and then that's it.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing. I
know,
think like for us is the beauty of that we don't automatically like for us. I think and again, each religion. I'm a part that I respect every religion, and every religion is beautiful in its own way. Our like the thing that I have came to love is that we give the position and the role to everything, and we don't forget. Even in our moyuba, even in our
yeah,
attention. And
yeah,
it's always starting there. We don't skip anything.
yeah,
We always start with our eguns. We then go to elegua. We do our step by step, and it's not skipping it. So it's like knowing that they might not be here in the physical form, but they're always gonna be with us in spirit. So that's the beauty
yeah,
of it, that it's like what was there never ceases to exist. Of course, obviously the emotions and the feelings, it's a difficult, but we know that at the end of the day, you go to your teja, or you go to your boeda, or you do whatever, and and they're gonna be there. They're always gonna be
Even if
watched
they
out
have
for.
reincarnated,
Así
even if they have reincarnated, a part of the consciousness stays within that lifestyle or that lifetime. So when you, as a person, you're tapping in to your grandmother, but your grandmother's already reincarnated over here, you still have access to that consciousness because it doesn't all come into this one body. It's like we just have parts of our consciousness. And how do you know that? Is the whole quantum mechanics and the fact that there's all these different dimensions, and we're at the same time living all these different lives. So that's how you know that at the same time you can be in spirit and in the physical, because you still have people here on the physical that are trying to tap in to when you was the grandmother or when you was the great grandmother. It's God in its awesomeness, its wisdom and awesomeness and more awesomeness.
No, more awesomeness, not more awesomeness. But
I'm gonna have to go soon. I have to go pick up Layla.
Yeah, and it was because I was about to go ahead and we're just gonna have to end this one, and because we'll be talking.
Yeah, we was talking for a while, but it was definitely great speaking to you guys.
Yes.
Beautiful conversation.
It was awesome.
I want y'all to go ahead and plug in y'all stuff. Tell people where to find you, all these different things. Because I'm all about supporting people. So whoever wants to.
Yeah, do you want to go first? I'll let you plug in.
Yes. Okay. Oh, well, I don't need to plug in. They
No,
hear me talk all the
they
time.
know where she's at.
No.
Okay. So, I'm known as Lady Dydra, and you can find me at Divine Waters Tarot. I do readings, and I also do ebos, and so that's what I do.
Not the hee.
If you need guidance, you know where to holler.
There we go. Divine Waters Tarot. Got it plugged right there.
DivineWatersTarot.com. Yay.
Follow.
Yeah, right there.
For mine, I have two platforms. I'm typically a little bit more active on TikTok, but you can find me either at AWO, that's AWO, Ogbe Wale, OGBEWALE, or Botanica Ashe del Pueblo. I have a Botanica here in Houston, Texas at 9880 Windmill Lakes Boulevard. So if you need anything religious-wise, whether it's for IFA, Palo Mayombe, anything for your religious needs, you can feel free to let me know. So we also do consults. We also do consults, anything like that, but
So again, I thank you all for taking time out of y'all schedule and being here. I'm really upset that parts of it did not get recorded.
That's okay.
It wasn't meant to be.
We'll edit and put it together.
Yeah. I think you have a good bit of editing. There's a lot of
and I sit here and
it's
I
always
always
like I'm
never gonna edit.
Series.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be something. Lord have mercy. But again, I thank y'all for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Right. Until next time.